Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to the DLC podcast. We're talking games, movies, all things in between. I'm Isaac. That's Juicy. And
What up?
below us is the one and only Whip,
What's
also
going on,
known as
guys?
Prince, also
Mm.
known as God Almighty, also known
Ah,
as the leader of all Jedi, while also sometimes being a
mhm.
Sith Lord because he's naughty that way. He's a naughty boy.
Whoa.
Whoa.
One can say he studied under what's his name? The one that Anakin kills, chops his head off. Guy's name.
uh, Count Dooku?
Count Dooku. Yeah, Count Dooku. There we go. But anyway, so today's topic, as you may see it in the title, we need another gaming renaissance, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like everyone, for the most part, is within agreement. But we're just gonna touch up on some things because Juicy and I we talked about this yesterday, right? And all this came from the Will of Game Pass, and basically games nowadays aren't passion projects anymore. I mean, there are a few games
Mhm.
that are passion projects, and they're great. But for the most part, it feels like, even though I wasn't around during that time, when the gaming industry was oversaturated and it just almost went away until Nintendo came in and saved it. I feel like we're like, if that ever happening again, is slim to none. But I feel like we're getting to that point as consumers. We're kind of like, we're not as impressed with games as we once were. Now, do we
Mm.
attribute that to us being older? You know, the internet being there, so we hear everyone's opinions, or has it really been an actual steady decline in quality? Which I feel like we agree in quality, it has gone down a bit. They have gotten lazy, but but you know, I want our guest Brent to dabble in and see what he thinks. So Brent, go ahead and take away. Brent, what do you think?
You know, I definitely see where you're coming from. I'm easily pleased, so like I don't really care most of the time. Um, but like I definitely see like there's definitely like and I talked with Jeremiah about this a little last night, and I think that we're, you know, ever since Microsoft started spending billions of dollars on stuff, I do think that the industry is kind of waiting to see what will happen next as far as that goes. And it has created an interesting sort of like, for example, like uh PlayStation hasn't announced too much over the course of the last 6 or 7 months. It's I mean, I'm okay with that simply because I've already got enough to play. But like I could see why some people would be frustrated at the fact that like PlayStation hasn't announced too much. Um and I think that they're just holding off to see what will happen next as far as like all of the money being thrown around. But yeah, I mean I definitely agree with you about the whole like passion project thing, making like games because people love to make games. And you don't you know, although I like my AAA bangers that come out of Sony, it's kind of it's a lot of the same stuff. Even though I'm like okay with that. It's whatever. But yeah, I mean that's yeah.
So I have one question, or maybe a few. I don't know yet. But basically, do you feel like I'm gonna bring this up later? But do you feel like we've kind of, in a sense, peaked in regards to gaming? Because you know, you had the NES that came out, right? And that
Mhm.
blew people out of the water. And then you had the Super Nintendo and the Sega come out, and people were like, "Whoa!" And then you had the 64, the Dreamcast, and PS1 come out, and again, you're like, "Whoa!" You know, like 3D, whatever. And then you know you have the PS2 and the GameCube, and then the Xbox was like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" And you're like, "Well, okay, now we're pushing it further." And then we hit the 360 and PS3 era, and you're like, "Okay, now just taking it even further." And then things kind of mellow out a little bit. Well, mainly for Xbox. Xbox One didn't have any games, and PS4 was still riding strong with their exclusives. I feel like that's when their exclusives
Mhm.
were really actually. I mean, they were always bangers, but I feel like at the PS4 was like that. Well, they were just knocking them out of the park, you know. But since
I-
then, huh?
No, oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, but since then, do we think the Series XS, PS5, and the Switch, or the Switch, not so much, but you know, the current gen is that extra leap, and if it is, how can we go beyond that? Or are we kind of stagnant at this point?
I think we've peaked graphic wise. I don't know how games could possibly look any better than they do now.
Right.
Um, uh, I think I think we need to stop pushing the boundaries of how like photorealistic like games are, because like one of the reasons why I like video games is because they're different than the real world. It's like, you know, I live in the real world. I have a point. I have a point that I'm getting to. So bear with me. Um, so I think we need to stop like pushing the boundaries of how like good we can get these games to look. And so I think so we've peaked. I believe that we've peaked there. I don't think that there's any more that we could do. And I think people need to stop trying to get more graphically. But I think one thing that I think the gaming industry really needs is to focus on functionality and gameplay, making the games just consistently fun and functional. Did that answer your question?
For the most part, yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay.
My thing is one thing I always got annoyed with, because you know, as a kid, graphics were the big cheese, right? Like
Mhm.
graphics, graphics, graphics. I mean, as a kid, I didn't know about what performance was. You know,
Mhm.
I didn't know about any of these. All I knew is what I could see.
Right.
And what I wanted to see, I wanted to be pretty. I wanted to look nice.
Sure.
But as I got older, you know, you want performance, you want a solid 30, 60, whatever, right? And I feel like for me, though, like I have a PC, right? But I will say the moment where I felt for myself gaming like just hit that pinnacle, like that like we broke through into something amazing was during
Mhm.
that 360 PS3 era. 'Cause I felt like that was a huge leap when it came to graphics, game quality,
Yeah.
performance. Like I thought like that was like bam. I mean, granted, now we have SSD, so it blows them out of the water for sure, right? But for that time, it was great. So, so yeah, so like I agree, like we're done. I feel like we're graphics should be not the primary focus more than gameplay, game mechanics,
Mhm.
and so forth. But Juicy, what do you think?
I'm hungry.
I feel that.
So no, my thing is, yeah, we peaked, and I would say actually that we peaked in 2019 with all this. And I know that even that's kind of like, okay, that's just before like the Gen 9 consoles, you know. But
Right.
my thing is, when games start having to incorporate little gimmicks into them just to continue being new and innovative, and it's like mixing 2 to 3 games together, that's where you start to lose me, you know? I'm gonna actually reference, the Nintendo Direct from last year around September, I think it was, where, like, every game had a farming sim. And while that was kind of
Yeah.
egregious, at the same time, that's not the first time we've been seeing that. They started trying to incorporate card games into everything we did back in 2019. Just before that, it was, oh, well, you should be have this weird customization where you can put whatever you want. So you need to have an avatar and live some life, while still playing these games. You need to have some homestead that you can create and customize. We'd be able to build a house in 2018. It's I just feel like all of these different games to try and stay like, especially new games coming out, to try and stay innovative and try to stay like, oh cool, it's something so different, was instead mashing a bunch of things that could have been their own genres, with again last year's being the most telling to me. And I understand it was more just Nintendo, and that, like, Nintendo's the one who had their direct. The state of play, obviously we didn't see like Pacific Drive now with Farming Sim, coming from
Mm.
Ironwood Studio. Like we didn't, but I think it's a similar thing. Like one thing that was brought up is the fact that Sony has AAA bangers coming out, but they all have the same schema. It's like yes, at this point, like they've produced bangers, but they all have the same scheme, same. I mean, ISU said that like it has the same storyline, And while I respect the fact they're doing really well, it's like
Same
at one point,
characteristics. I won't say same
yeah, yeah.
line. I'll say same characteristics.
Well, let's just say like schema. It's oh gosh, you broke it down. It's like it's always got a main character who's gone through something tragic and has either some rage or some sadness.
Someone has to
It always has someone has to die. There has to be an innocence being protected. Like there was this awesome script that they have. And my thing's like, yeah, you're right. Like once you've seen the fifth or sixth iteration of it, while they are successes, like what happens next? Is Spider-Man 3 just going to be another a Spider or is it Spider-Man 2? Because they had Miles
Spider-Man
Morales.
2.
That was
Spider-Man
so.
2.
Is Spider-Man 2 going to be Spider-Man 1? Are they going to bring back Aunt May just to kill her? Like, are we going to kill Mary Jane finally? Like because that needs to happen at one point. If we're going to move on to certain stories. And then for Xbox, when I say like, it just seems like for Game Pass. Oh gosh, dog it! I will take it again back to like 2020 when Hades came out for Game Pass and roguelites apparently were just like, oh man, this is so great. Suddenly, I just couldn't get away from the roguelike genre from Game Pass. It seemed like every month a new roguelike game was coming out and it had some weird thing to it. It's like we're getting to the point where all we can really push is whatever's hot and fast in the moment.
Mhm.
And I'm just remembering back in the day whenever I've like even at the time because I got a 360 very late in my life. Like and I think I've said this before, I would buy controllers to play with friends and stuff like that on different systems. But even when I first like got a 360, it was just before the drop of Skyrim, Dark Souls, and Gears of War 3. All of it, like Gears of War 3 being a third iteration, still doing pretty hot, doing some new things and making its own innovative third person shooter that everyone seemed to enjoy. Awesome. Dark Souls, great installment. And of course, that went on to multiple games. I'm just saying,
Mhm.
it was so different from Demon Souls, still had the similar mechanics, but actually had a storyline you could follow. It was great. Skyrim blew me out of the water because when I first got the 360, I did go to Oblivion to play through it. I was like, man, this is pretty fun. But Skyrim to me took it to a whole nother level, in graphics and everything I felt I could do. It did feel like a different game, you know?
Mhm.
And now I'm kind of like, I don't know if I'd be looking towards an Elder Scrolls 6. 'Cause I can't really see what they would do with that. Based off what I've been seeing from all these different publishers nowadays, they're just kind of reskinning what they already had. And I guess my last thing would be, so we've all discussed Hi-Fi Rush. I've even told her like once everything's settled with Hi-Fi Rush, like I still love the game, still think it's pretty great. I'm wondering, would it have hit me so big if it didn't have the release that it did? Would it still be hitting me if I had played something similar too? Is another question I've asked myself. I think one of the things that really it was a breath of fresh air because it was something completely different than anything we've really played. I mean, played hack and slash, and I've played rhythm games. And in fact, they had that Metal Hellsinger and stuff out that's a rhythm game like fighter, like
It
well
did
shooter
really
and stuff
well.
like that. But yeah, but Hi-Fi Rush just seemed like its own thing, and that's dope. And I think that's my thing is like I after that, what else could we do? What's going to be so different? Does
So
that make sense? Maybe I'm just saying
no,
like things have not been different for a while. It just seems like we're trying to mesh different mechanics. And so when we do catch on to something that's different, we just like, yeah. So like I had said earlier, I think it's time for a renaissance. We are well overdue for like a complete change in what's going to be a popular genre,
yeah.
you know?
So one thing
So,
I want to piggyback off what you said with High Five Rush, right?
mhm.
Because that kind of goes and that kind of ties similar to what I said about Sony games. You know how they have same
Mhm.
characteristics, and this game had same characteristics. Like it ain't the first rhythm game to come out.
No,
It ain't
no.
the first slashing game to come out. And the thing is, I don't mind when things have different characteristics, and this is what I credit Sony with because they use those characteristics that they know people like but they're able to make each game different in its own right with those characteristics. And I feel like Hi-Fi Rush did that with games that were out prior to it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't mind stuff like that because one thing, a renaissance I would like to say kind of already happened. It happened like a couple years
Really?
ago, and I would say what changed the game industry was Fortnite and the battle royale genre as a whole.
Oh
Because
yeah.
so we kind of already got something to that, but here's the thing, like you were saying, everyone's got to copy everyone, and what sucks is everyone that these days, or developers these days, they want that live service game. They want that consistent cash flow of income, you know. And there's nothing wrong with that, but for instance, the only issue you have with that is one company or developers can come up with 10 different ones, spit them all out there, and then take them back because they suck and maybe and they just hope one sticks, right? So it gets saturated, you
Mhm.
know. And like, Respawn did their thing with Apex to differentiate itself, and Call of Duty didn't really have to do much because Call of Duty in itself, people are gonna play just for the name itself, and
Yeah.
and people don't even and because of that, most people don't even care about standard multiplayer anymore. They just want to play BRs, right?
Man, to be fair, Fortnite wasn't the first one to start as
No,
H1Z1 and PUBG.
well, yeah, no, I agree.
And then
But
Fortnite was the one that got it popular because it was free. But you are correct
no,
that like that
no, the
was
reason
a
no, no,
change.
the reason I give Fortnite the
Mhm,
credit because I know that. I mean, hell, Minecraft had it, but like
mhm.
earlier. But why I give Fortnite the credit? Like it was accessible for everyone, and it reached a demographic that those games didn't really touch on. It touched the like people of all ages,
Mm.
and the game was simple. You didn't have to worry about putting attachments on weapons or any of that. It's whatever's there is what you get, and that's that.
Yeah. Something that I was gonna bring up is I think games just need to go back to being a little bit more simple.
Yeah,
Yeah. Eh,
yes.
some games just are just like, there's too much complicated stuff going on with the mechanics and this, that, or the other, and it's just like, I don't wanna play this.
Yeah. It
Exactly.
it it turns you away. It turns you
So
away.
so so we need something like that type. I don't know what it is, what it could be, but
Mhm,
I haven't really been playing games that much because there are a lot of games out there, a lot of good games. But
right.
the
Mhm.
juice for we discussed this yesterday is like, so what sucks about the internet, and there's a lot of good with the internet, but you know what sucks about the internet? The ability to patch things. Because now companies are releasing games that aren't even done because like, oh, we'll finish it later, we'll patch it later. Just throw it out there
I
and
don't know.
patch it later.
I'm of the opinion that I'm grateful for patches.
Well, no,
Like,
I'm grateful if the game's broken, then patch it. But my thing is, I don't want them to have like to know
you
the
don't wanna
game's
you
not
don't want them to
ready.
use it as a crutch.
Yeah, like I don't
Mhm.
want them knowing their game's not ready, but they're like, but we'll just patch it later on, so just release it.
Kinda like what's happening with Redfall right now, where it should be hitting the 60 frame per second because that's the standard they've been trying to push for Gen 9. But now it's like, "Hey, guys, we're gonna fix that later, but for now, we're gonna release it at this." While it's not a big deal to me, I can understand people being upset with it because it's kind of that precedent you're talking about, you know?
Exactly.
It should already be
That
there.
had it. So I mean,
Yeah.
Cyberpunk really put a. It was already an issue, but Cyberpunk, that whole ordeal, literally put a spotlight on the issue, right?
Mm.
Whereas I remember, you know, going to the store, buying a GameCube game, and being confident, oh, it's gonna work just fine, or buying a
And
PS2
we're
game and being confident.
GameCube days, you probably didn't have to have too many patches, if at all, really. Like, you buy a game and whatever you get's whatever you're gonna get. If
No,
there are bugs to it, you either find ways to joke around about it or you find ways around it,
but
you know?
but my thing is, like all games have bugs. I don't believe there's a perfect game out there, but I feel like with them not having that ability to patch it,
Mm.
developers like Nintendo, like how Activision and Treyarch used to be, how EA used to be, you know, where they release good, like their games came out solid. You know,
Hmm.
they cared about their games. We don't really have that no more. That's why I'm saying it's nice when you have a developer that releases a passion project because you know they're gonna
Mhm.
take care of it. They're gonna baby it. Like they're not gonna set it out there to fail. You know,
Right.
and
So do you think that's where we're gonna move to in this call for a new renaissance?
well, no,
Where they're gonna push for passion projects?
no, I think that could be the renaissance. And the reason I'm saying that is because what's the hot commodity now? Remakes.
Hmm.
Like we're getting to the point to like, yeah, make a sequel to this game, but remake all these games that deserve it. And
Well, I mean, so I had brought that up before yesterday, if you remember. I said
yeah,
it always kind of that ebb and flow always kind of happens like that, doesn't it? Where it's like something new comes out that kind of redefines the gaming industry. A lot of things come out for it. It's really awesome. There's a bit of a lull, and about the time that people start looking towards what we now consider retro gaming, as it retroactively moves up in years, where now people are talking about, man, old PS2 games. I'm going back and playing my old Kingdom Hearts like original copy. I'm doing this and that. It's like
mm,
where back in the day, for instance, for Fortnite, people were like, "Man, I'm so glad I have this PS3 so I can play PS1 games." And some people were trying,
well,
and Xbox really pushed to be able to play some Xbox
no,
like original games.
and that's why the retro industry is booming right now because people want to
The
go.
retro industry is booming because Nintendo is jumping on that. Like, so right now, it seems like everyone has a different focus, in my opinion. The Xbox of course, is focusing their streaming. You can play anywhere, really trying to work on their cloud gaming and bringing their games everywhere. I feel that PlayStation is kind of focusing more the VR too, although like as Brent said, like he said that yesterday. He hoped it is that, but I feel like they are. They're trying to get to more like how more realistic can you get in a game by getting immersed in a game. I feel like Horizon, the new Horizon game, is just a stepping in to a possible God of War VR.
Yeah,
But Nintendo, and we've talked about this. Nintendo is their own system. They like when I say like system of life, they literally exist within their own system. They're not fighting for anything except for their own games, right? Like hey, we just do this here. These are our IPs. And what have they been doing? Their own emulation services. Literally everything has emulation.
Which kind of have issues.
Well, I mean, like they already like jumped out at Xbox about the emulation
No,
issues.
they didn't.
Uh,
So Xbox came out and clarified that Nintendo did not reach out to them.
okay, okay.
Yeah, I mean, hey,
Well,
do I believe that? No, because but Xbox gonna say whatever they got to say to keep Nintendo happy. So do I believe that?
yeah.
No, but they said themselves that Nintendo wasn't the reason. It's because like they broke some guidelines. But
But
my thing
that
is,
but that's why I was just like
if they broke some guidelines. I took a little too long to correct it.
well, my thing is it's just perfect timing, isn't it? They just really released that Game Boy emulator. Now you have an emulator for the N64, the freaking Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and the Game Boy Color in advance. It's like, I mean, at this point, it makes sense that they would be jumping onto people, or at least hyper focusing systems and consoles that are emulating their stuff. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like the retro push has really come from Nintendo, but I always feel like that's a flag to tell you we're like at this point everyone's just kind of scrounging. Does that mean like it's like okay, so what's new?
yeah.
Where's it going to go from here? And so I'm very interested to see what the next
So
game will be. I
you know,
hopefully God it's not another card game.
no. So you know what company I feel like is gonna lead the way for the gaming industry because I feel like they already kind of are, and it took them a good decade of ungrueling punishment and flops to be where they are today. They developed an amazing engine. Their games are phenomenal, and that's Capcom. Capcom is doing everything right now in regards to
I
That's what,
agree.
that's what we
remakes.
said. Maybe it's small
Yeah.
Capcom.
It's like, or as they used to be called, the Cap Gods. They're regaining that throne again. Because my thing is,
Mhm.
for like a solid 10 years, they were just pumping out garbage. I mean, I don't want to be rude, but it was garbage. They
Mhm.
they try to do live service with Tekken Cross Street Fighter, with the whole gems, and you buy gems and it gives you special abilities and so on and so forth. And the Resident Evil 6 was not the best game, and Street Fighter 5 had its issues. Like it went through a lot. Then Monster Hunter came in and saved it, and then they just been shooting up since then, right? Like they made the RE engine, they gave us Resident Evil 7, 8, 2, 3 remake, though 3 does cause some controversy. 4 remake, they have the Monster Hunter, what's the one that's on the Switch, Juice?
Rise.
Rise, Monster Hunter Rise, that's
Rise is
doing
Sunbreak.
well. And the thing is, what I'm not gonna say those games are simple, but they're simple. It's like they're not trying to reinvent the wheel. They're taking what they already know and just working with that,
I would have to disagree with that. Monster Hunter World is its own entity in the Monster Hunter series. It's
Okay,
the first one of its
I take it
kind.
back. I take it back. I'm talking in regards at this point because I don't play Monster Hunter. So I'm talking about like
No, that's fair.
with Resident Evil, how
Mhm.
they changed the script, first person visuals, and we're gonna stick with this until we hit the remakes, and then the remakes are gonna give you back the classic, visuals, but we're still keeping it within engine, and we're not gonna overcomplicate it or none of that. So I feel like games developers should do that. Like for instance, with Hi-Fi Rush and Bethesda, like, hey guys, you actually made a banger. Capitalize on that, you know. Like either make a second game, a Hi-Fi Rush 2, or make a game within some like I don't know what engine they use, but you know how they like Resident Evil. I mean, Capcom's using RE engine, making
Mhm.
different games. Do that with Hi-Fi Rush. Like maybe do a new whole storyline, but keep the same characteristics that everyone loved. Like I said, I have no issues with these sharing characteristics with other games as long as you are able to still change it up enough to where I can appreciate it as its own game. You know?
Mhm.
But as for me personally, I don't see any other developers doing that. I could be wrong. I haven't played all the games out there. But I just feel like Capcom is on this trajectory that I wish every other gaming developer would hop on or like follow suit. Like,
Mhm.
can you imagine the games EA could punch out if they cared? With how much money, manpower they have? The games they could spit out would be great, but they don't need it because they're comfortable. They got their sports games or microtransactions, you know?
Mhm.
And it's annoying because everyone, like I said, everyone wants a live service game. Xbox
Mhm.
wants their own live service game.
Do they? I'm about to say, does everyone or do the developers want to produce that for a better money market?
Well, I know,
Like,
the reason Sony bought Bungie was because Bungie has experience in live service, and I think,
mhm.
Mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong, Brent. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not 100%, but I think they said they want to release 10 live service games,
Apparently, they have like 10
right?
in some form of development. Yeah.
Exactly, and they're hoping at least one or two of them stick, right?
Yeah.
And if they stick, that means they're great, and I'm happy for the people that enjoy them. But it sucks because I mean, I'm not a fan of live service games. Like I
Yeah.
play Fortnite, whatever. I'll spend my money on games I actually care about, but I hate that I I I guess I'm old school, but there's something about just buying the game, playing the game, beating the game, going back to complete the game, and being done with the game. It's
Right. Yeah.
satisfying. Not something I have to keep going back. Like, oh no, I got to get my login streak. I got to keep it going to get my end of the week prize. Like because I've noticing yesterday. Like I got on to play Call of Duty and like I'm not having fun, but I have the battle pass. I'm like, I feel like I got out of work in real life now. Now I'm clocking in to finish out this battle pass, you know? And
Yeah, I don't like my games feeling like work either. Yeah.
so I feel like
Mhm.
games are within this, they're stuck there. Which
Right.
that's why I like so years from now I could go back and play Hi-Fi Rush and be like, yo, that game was so mid. It wasn't even that great. But I was just starving for a game that took me away from that live service atmosphere. It just gave me a story, let me play it, and I'm done.
Hmm.
And like I was telling Juice, I mean Juice knows, like I did not stop playing that game.
Yeah.
Every time he called me, I was addicted to that game just because I'm like,
No, that was both of us. Like we had to
yeah.
get to the end of it because there was an end, you know?
And I'm not saying that,
Like
and I'm not even gonna say it's just for Hi-Fi Rush. I did the same with Spider-Man. Like it was
Mhm.
nice just to sit down and play the game and not worry about what happens if I don't sign in tomorrow, or I got to complete all of this. And granted, I know Battle Pass is optional, but you know, like
It's a selling point to certain games, like
yeah,
Warzone and Warzone 2. It is a selling point
yeah,
because, I mean, if not, it's just a shooter. A shooter I should
Hmm.
be able to put down, you know?
yeah,
But now, since there's daily rewards if I jump on, since there's daily challenges, weekly challenges, and free swag, and oh, but I really love Deadpool, love his skin, better go play Fortnite again this season. You know, it's
yeah,
like everybody's in that fee for it. And it's just yeah, I agree. It gets overwhelming. It gets taxing, you know?
yeah.
So
Because like for instance, before I got back into Fortnite, I was playing a lot of Valorant, and then I have friends that don't play Valorant, so I play Warzone. And I'm just like, I kind of want to play Valorant because I got this battle pass. And then I'm like, well, we're playing a lot of Warzone, so about a battle pass on Warzone. And then they stop playing. They're like, well, I want to go back to Valorant, but I can't go back to Valorant because I'm about to battle pass for Warzone. You know, like you feel tied up. And yeah, it's my fault for buying it. But you know, for me, I buy a battle pass because you know I feel like if I play it long enough, I'll get the rewards and it pays for itself in the long run. You know, because I mean, if you don't
mm,
spend if you don't spend the credits you get from the battle pass, you can buy the battle pass again with the money you got from the battle pass. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
yeah.
So yeah, no. So I just feel like we need the gaming renaissance needs to come in the sense of let's just go back to the fundamentals and stop
Yeah.
trying to overcomplicate everything.
See, for me, I do think we need to take it back to something.
Hmm.
We need to go back to specialized controllers and pads to play certain games. There needs to be a revolution of that. And I'm not talking a VR headset that costs more than a PS5 just to play a not Oculus Rift. I'm talking I'm talking like bring back the dance game, but F that whole do it right in front of your TV thing.
With the
Bring back the pads, sell them with it. Bring back Guitar Hero, bring it back, sell it with the guitar, and I don't know, like
I mean,
bring some type of sword fighting game, but it comes with an actual sword baton, like
that
we're
sounds
looking more
dangerous,
at the
but I
Switch
get
at
what
this
you're saying.
point, but yeah, I mean a little dangerous. So you couldn't take it through airport, but
But yeah. So let's go and
I,
get our final thoughts. I feel like Juice, was that your final thought?
that's my final thought. Let's just take it back.
What about you, Brandon? You got a final thought?
uh, yeah, my final thought is sorry for like getting up and moving around. I'm having weird technical difficulties with my audio system. It always is cutting in and out, so that's what I was trying to resolve. But yeah, I don't know. I think we need to I think simplicity is needed. Nothing overly complicated, just fun, a fun game. Something
Mm,
that's just, that's what I feel like we need are just fun games again.
Yeah.
Cause
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
and the thing is, there are games out that are fun right now. Like
yeah, sure.
we're not gonna disagree. Like God of War Ragnarok, people loved it. You know,
Mhm.
like the Hi-Fi Rush, and Nintendo has their games. So there are games
Hmm.
out there that people are like, yes, this is fun, I love it, and that's great. But I just feel
Mhm.
like the market right now is so overly saturated to where I'm just like, it's hard to maneuver to find the good games, you know,
Yeah.
or
Mm,
or find the games that deserve the spotlight. Like as far as we know, there could be a passion project game out there that's phenomenal that we don't know about because it's just getting buried by
Right.
all these other games. Like I was telling Juice, like remember when Fez came out, when Super Meat Boy came out? Those are passion projects.
boy.
They even made documentaries, and you saw like how into like invested into in the game they were. I remember Fez that show up on a 360 dashboard for as an ad. So when a guy called, Mark was like, "Where's it at? Where's it at? Like it's supposed to be there by now." Then all he had to do was reset it, and it was there. And he was like throwing a big celebration because his game made it there. And Fez did really well. Super Meat Boy did really well. And these are low budget, small
I
indie
mean,
titles.
now that those came out from no, I feel like that's something like that.
No,
Those came out during the time where indie
no, no,
developers
no, no. I'm saying no.
were.
I'm not saying indie. I'm just saying that type of passion.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Like imagine that type of passion at a multi-billion-dollar company. Like
That's fair.
what they could do. I'm not saying them and like indie games. And, yeah, I know. I'm saying if everyone shared that same enthusiasm, it would be phenomenal. We would all be happy.
Right.
But, it's all about them checks, man. It's all about them bills.
Money makes the world go around, gentlemen,
Mhm.
and we know that.
All right.
Oh
So,
wow.
anyways, Mr. Webb, where can they find you, bro?
You can find me on YouTube at Work in Progress SLO. I've been fairly consistent about getting videos out every other Friday. So, yeah,
All right, GC.
that's about it.
Let them know about us and what our projects are.
We're Dude Let's Chat. We talk games, movies, and all things in between. You can catch us doing live streams of our gaming. We do try to podcast when we can. You usually will see those come up on Wednesday on your favorite podcasting platforms, and of course, right here on YouTube on our channel. You'll also see us for the Wheel of Game Pass, something that Ice and I are doing, and possibly Britt in the future. Don't know. We're all talking. You never know. But either way, you'll see us just trying out different Game Pass games, playing it, giving our review of it, showing you how it's done. Catch us on our live streams when you see us. Of course, you can't see us unless you hit that bell, like, subscribe, comment. We appreciate it. Find us at Dude Let's Chat on all of our social platforms, such as Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and we'll see y'all next time, guys.
Yeah, make sure you ring the notification bell that we know when we upload and go live.
Exactly.
So
You can't do it without the bell, baby.
can't do it at the bell. But anyways, Webb, thanks for stopping by. Catch you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Deuces.